to begin with, let me just start with Joey because he kind of sticks out a little bit here. I don't know why. But so Joey, where are you from and how did you end up in Jamaica? Talking about, working in our zoo.
Originally from the U.S., born in Kansas City, Kansas. But I've been working in kind of zoos and kind of conservation research, mainly with reptiles, for over 15 years.
Apparently, this is much more interesting, much more popular than we thought, working with reptiles.
Serious? I'm telling you.
All right. So how did you end up in Jamaica here? What made you want to come here?
I was actually finishing up grad school. I'd been working in the Philippines studying crocodiles for my master's research, and was just finishing up my thesis there, and actually had some colleagues that were heavily involved with the Jamaican iguana research program, it's a famous conservation program, and the Hope Zoo has been a lead player kind of helping bring that species back from extinction. And so I had some friends reach out to me and let me know that the Hope Zoo is actually looking for a curator to help run the zoo. And it was just good timing because I was finishing up grad school. I've worked a lot overseas, and this position involves a lot of kind of zoo work, but also work like research involving the Jamaican Iguana Head Start program at the zoo.
All right. So in terms of working here at the zoo, how has the experience been with you, just to get a little sense of how the experience has been, how you've been finding it and that kind of thing?
It's been incredible. I mean, from day one, the staff itself, they've welcomed me in just like a part of the family at the zoo, like from the keepers to the grounds people to the maintenance. We have a huge, a couple hundred people that work there, and everyone is just one big family. So that's been an amazing part as well, working abroad. And then just the daily interaction with the animals, with the constant school kids that are coming by, and just being kind of making friends and contacts with just people visiting the zoo.
All right. So seriously, no. All right, I'm gonna get each of you to weigh in on the topic of discussion, which is zoos. Should we have them? Shouldn't we have them? How do we feel about them? I mean, I think the average layperson just thinks of a zoo as a place where you go, you look at a few animals, have a good time, and then you go back home. But realistically, animals should be in the wild. They should be, roaming free and that kind of thing. And
perfect world.
In a perfect world.
No poaching and no habitat destruction.
And like I said, we have many animal-based attractions here in Jamaica. There are persons who might have a little bit of a problem, and fundamentally that there are animals in captivity, and then how do you manage them, and what of the possibility of them getting out and hurting or harming somebody, that kind of thing. So there's lots of reason for them they can find lots of reasons to oppose the idea of having a zoo. So what do you say to persons who have that frame of mind?
I mean, I beg them just to even come to the zoo and spend some time there, especially just to see the impact it has. I mean, from a visitor's perspective, we have daily classes of school kids coming in, and you see the joy and excitement on these kids' faces interacting with these animals. And that doesn't even go into like what they learn leaving the zoo. How's it going to impact their role when they go, back out into, at leaving the zoo and wanting to protect, the animals in the wild more.
Right.
But there's a lot that goes on that people don't even realize that zoos do, whether it's supporting research in the wild, helping protect habitat in the wild. At the Hope Zoo and with NEPA, we're involved with the Jamaican Iguana Research Program, which has pretty much brought back that iguana from extinction.
Right.
And then just, it's seeing the people it's more than just, it's more than just like putting animals on display. It's a learning experience, and then it's making people leave there with a better appreciation for animals in the wild.
All right, so over to you, Jodi-Ann. What do you think about the zoo, that debate? Where do you fall on the debate? I mean, you might be biased because you work at a zoo, but still, where do you come down in that debate?
Let's just say persons on a whole, they sometimes, think that, okay, it's not good because you have the animal in captivity. They're not free, as you mentioned before. But this is why we but we always try to give them animal enrichment. We try to make them as comfortable as possible. And with the animals being at the zoo, we do have conservation programs there. And having the conservation program there, it also helps them, to be able, it gives them another chance at life, basically. So when they're in the wild, you have invasive species outside, attacking them. And so with this, our animals can be extinct. But when we have them at the zoo and, we take care of them and stuff like that, we'll always have them here.
All right.
Persons just have a misunderstanding sometimes. I
Misunderstanding.
think it's
Alright,
best
okay.
if they should, if they do come to the zoo,
Yeah.
and you know, you might see a zookeeper. You can ask a couple questions, you know, and they'll give you the full lowdown.
Zoos they've also evolved and come a long way. You know, if you look back in the 90s, they were kind of, you know, kind of sad because you had animals literally in cages. But now it's evolved into like we recreate these natural habitats for the animals. You know, it's almost like it's a miniature version of the wild where we're keeping them happy, we're keeping them, you know, foraging, and they're not stressed and depressed, you know, and they're
which is one of the concerns in terms of the captivity.
Yeah,
I mean, we all know that like the lion, you know, the metaphor of the lion with his eyes glazed over and it's like, if only I could be in the wild roaming like a lion. So Treya, what do you think? Where do you come down in this discussion?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna build on what Joey and Jodi have said already. Zoos are always a big topic of discussion. I studied conservation biology, and it was always a big topic. And the fact of the matter is, zoos have come a long way. They have evolved. You know, when they first started out, they were just literally a live collection of animals. People used to just go and look at them and then go home, and there was no real purpose except for people's entertainment. But over time, you know, we've become a lot more environmentally conscious, and a lot of zoos now have big conservation roles, big educational roles, and Hope Zoo is one of them. You know, if it wasn't for the Hope Zoo facilitating or accommodating the Jamaican Head Start program, the Jamaican iguana may not be here today. Would probably not be here today, especially in the numbers that are in the wild right now. And so you do still have good and bad zoos today. Not saying all zoos are good.
Absolutely.
But, you know, as NEPA, we do encourage these facilities to have certain standards so that, you know, animals are treated in the best manner possible. And, you know, the facilities they're kept in, as Joy was saying, are very enriching and could possibly replicate the natural habitat. And to have an important, you know, a conservation and educational role where if that's like doing research, putting funds that they make back into conservation, and just taking in, you know, injured, displaced animals that need housing for a while. So they do play an important role in Jamaica.
All right, online, let's show some love to the persons who are tuning in. Eric Henland just tuned in to say you guys are doing a good job. So you have a fan there from me. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for your comment. If you have any more questions, don't be afraid, and do us a favor, share this video with our friends so we can get some more interactivity going on, because that's why we have them here, so we can ask them questions, get the answers, and hopefully build that kind of relationship, right? All right, so in terms of the whole captivity debate, regardless of how well you replicate you know, a habitat, people always say that's not the real thing, man. I mean, you know, the animals should be free. You know, so how do you manage that part of the discussion? Notwithstanding how much effort goes into replicating the habitat that they live in, and it might be able to feel relatively comfortable as an animal, it's still in captivity. And so therefore that might have an impact on the way the animal may grow and develop and that kind of, because if you know you have meals coming, you don't have to hunt. If you have all your basic needs being met, so to speak, you don't necessarily foster those natural inclinations that you would as a regular animal. If you will.
Yeah,
So,
but that's part of the
you know,
enriching thing is making them, making them forage, look in the trees for fruits and nuts is enriching that foraging. But yes, they're in captivity, but they're also having a huge impact on their whole animal species in the wild as well. I mean, you can have kids or adults, you know, watch TV all day long or watch Animal Planet. It doesn't have nearly the impact of them coming to the zoo and seeing these animals in person.
Right. So
I mean,
I want to let me get your opinion on that as well, Treya.
Yeah. So, sorry, I've lost my trail of thought.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the captivity and animals being in captivity, no matter how much you replicate the habitat, it's still captivity. You know
it's
what I mean?
all about a balance, and with zoos, they will try to, you know, set certain standards, enrich the animals, certain, you know, behaviors which would still be practiced as if they were in the wild. But also, a lot of our like native species that may go into these facilities, we always aim to have like a re-release program. So not all species that go into the zoo stay there forever.
Okay. Right.
If they're able to, you know, live back in the wild one day, if they're coming in
tell them
from
about
the
2
wild.
weeks ago.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we always aim to, especially when it comes to only on native animals, because we don't want to be introducing native
Yeah,
exotic animals
that
into
does,
our natural environment. But with
okay.
our native animals, we do aim to have re-release programs and reintroduction programs so that they do have a chance to live back in the wild. 2 weeks ago we released six barn owls. So it's the the white owls you see. What people call duppy owls.
The patois, something like that, right?
Yeah. So we actually released Nepa in the zoo. We actually came together and we released 6 barn owls that had been brought to the zoo under rescue circumstances. A lot of the owls fledge too early, meaning they leave the nest too early, and they need human support in order to develop. So a lot of these owls will go to the zoo. So that's one of the programs that we're actively doing.
I think you're blocking your face a little bit.
Yeah.
But all right. No, which brings me to a good point, which is the partnership that NEPA has and with Hope Zone, the ways in which you guys interact to ensure that animals are safe, injured animals are treated and taken care of and that kind of thing. Elaborate on that for me. How does that work exactly? How does the nature of your partnership, roll itself out? How do you guys get together and work and protect the animals and so on?
Okay. Well, Hope Zoo is one of our we consider one of our rescue facilities. And so since Hope Zoo has been open, I don't know what year that was.
70s.
Yeah, so for a while, Hope Zoo would take in, injured, displaced animals. Just to name some, yellow and black-billed parrots, our Jamaican parakeets, our barn owls, American crocodiles. Can you think of any? That's kind of the main species that we commonly rescue and have to house at a zoo, and so over the years this has been happening. So Hope Zoo are extremely important because it provides these animals that are become either injured or displaced in the wild and need human support. It gives them a home.
Right, and we know that happens. That unfortunately tends to happen quite often. You hear stories of, for example, crocodiles or so on crossing the street, get run over by cars, that kind of thing. And so you find, so I guess the partnership works. Then it does a lot of good for the country and the way our ecosystem, our animals and that kind of thing.
And they offer veterinary care as well, which NEPA can't offer. So they have those expertise. And with all of our expertise, we work together to kind of look out for Jamaica's native wildlife and try and rescue as many species that we possibly can so that they have another chance, if possible, to be released back into the wild.
I suppose one of the best or the biggest arguments for zoos, particularly in Jamaica, has specifically to do with the iguana. I want you guys, you Joy and you Jodi-Ann to just give me the breakdown, give me the rundown on the history of how you guys have been able to restore the population of our native iguana.
Endemic.
You have to make me sound look out.
Endemic.
But
a lot of people don't know what endemic means.
So,
endemic, it's only found in Jamaica.
Yeah. Right. So talk to me about what happened there insofar as it's your Head Start program. How you guys were able to restore the population of our endemic iguana.
I'll talk quick about the history, and then you can talk about captivity. Long story short, the Jamaican iguana was thought to be extinct up until 1990. Then there was a pig hunter was up with his dog, and he came across this iguana up in Hellshire Hills, and then brought it down to the zoo in Kingston. This is 1990, and quickly. Soon after, they found out this species is still alive, And so people from Hope Zoo, Dr. Peter Vogel from UE, all kind of, and even international collaborators from zoos in the U.S. kind of formed this Jamaican iguana recovery group. In 1991, the sole purpose was to come together, bring the brilliant minds together, and bring the species back from extinction. And so the zoo's role is they figured out the iguanas were going extinct because there's introduced cats and mongoose and even pigs up in these Hellshire Hills.
Mongoose are pretty common.
Mongoose are terrible. Yeah. Even cats are terrible for the wild. They kill everything.
Oh, wow.
Birds, mammals, and reptiles. But in this case, the cats and mongoose were killing all the baby iguanas. And so even though there might be some adult iguanas there, reproducing, laying eggs, all the babies were getting eaten and the wild population was growing.
Of course. Yeah.
So this Jamaican iguana recovery group figured, hey, if we can grow these iguanas big enough and then put them back in the wild, this population can stand a chance. And so that's why they started collecting, the eggs usually hatch every July, August. And so when the babies hatch out of the ground, they bring these babies back to Hope Zoo and then typically raise them at the zoo for 5, 6, 7 years until they're kind of usually about 1,000 grams. They hit this mark that we think is a big enough size
Weight
where
that
they can get away
survive
from,
yeah,
they can
right.
survive from cats and mongoose. And so because of that, and then when they hit that mark and then reintroducing them back into the wild, it's kind of been like this saving grace for the species. Because now the population is growing, and you have these iguanas that are kind of getting past that threshold and then reproducing and growing the wild population.
All right,
And so Jodi is our kind of iguana mama. Come on.
Yeah, let's tell your story, Jodi, because we have to put you under the microscope a little bit later.
Hatch in the wild, and then they come to the zoo, and then Jodi works her expertise.
Yeah, Joey pretty much said a lot, basically. But when we do receive hatchlings from the wild, we have to keep them at the zoo, you know, take care of them, give them a proper diet, and watch them grow, right? Not only, we don't want to have like animals that are just chunky and not in length. They're not, you know, they haven't.
They're just overweight
animals
that can't properly function in there. Yeah, okay.
So that's not what we want, right? So we have to give them a proper diet, ensure that they're growing well, and we do. However, this is not where we bring in the health screening, where we do check these animals yearly, right? So we check them for parasites and stuff like that. We want to make sure that they're extremely healthy before releasing them back into the wild. So as soon as they get to 1,000 grams or more, that's when we release them back in the wild. So we also check, you know, if they have cataracts in their eyes, if they have any, you know, bladder stone and parasites, stuff like that.
You must really love your job, man.
Of course I do.
You must really love your job. Why? The question is why? Why reptiles? Why animals? Fine. Reptiles? Why? Why, Jodi? Talk to us. What's going on?
Reptiles, they're simply the best. I mean, I think they're misunderstood by a lot of persons, and they're incredible, you know, smart animals. So therefore, reptiles. I like wildlife.
Okay. All right. Let me see. I see we have something on Instagram here. Palace Picking _pet says you got our support all the way from Florida. Number 305, number 954. Let us know how we can be of support. See, there you go.
Nice.
Thank you, Palace.
Thank you.
Thank you, Picnic. It's really appreciate that. All that. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. You know.
What's that?
Oh no.
Okay, so WTF John Wick says the guys are talking too much. They want to hear from the ladies in the
Nice.
You know what? I have no. This is your show. If you want to hear from the ladies, I have no problem with that. So right. So Jodi-Ann, talk to me. Like, where did you go to school? Where was this interest in animals stoked to begin with?
Interest in animal. Let's just say ever since I was a child, I believe, there's always been this interest. While going to birthday parties, you know, my aunt's taking me to birthday parties. Instead of having fun in a bunks about, I was busy looking for garden snakes. So,
all right.
I mean, my godmom, she had a pet store also. So I've always been involved, you know, love animal works and stuff like that.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
Where school is concerned, I went to, after completing high school, I basically moved over to the zoo, and I got my training at the zoo from the former curator, and I've been there ever since.
All right. Which begs me, Joy, what exactly does a curator do? You know, what's your job? What's your day? What's your day like? What do you do when you're at the zoo?
It's insane. It's crazy. I mean, pretty much kind of runs daily operations at the zoo. You know, I have an awesome staff of 10 keepers, veterinarians. So, you know, I'm supervising them, helping and training them, you know, ensuring all the animals are healthy, you know, we have to feed over 600 animals on a daily basis, you know, whether it's meat for the lions or bird seed and fruits for the birds, ensuring that we're constantly having, you know, our diets proper come in, improving the collection, bringing in additional animals.
Right.
And then just improving the zoo in general, kind of keeping, we talked about zoos evolving, making sure our zoo is at the highest standards possible.
All right. So for persons you have youngsters here, like Jodi-Ann, who might be interested in how they can forge a career working with animals. Naturally, you're coming from the overseas, but what are some of the things that you would have picked up along the way that you can advise youngsters here that they might have an interest in working with animals? How can they, begin a career or find in some way kind of put themselves on a path to do so?
Yeah. I started off as a zookeeper myself, and it was just getting my foot in the door. Even before that, as a kid, I kind of was in the high school or in university. I kind of just had to volunteer. I found people who were doing what I wanted to do, whether it's researching or working the zoo, and I kind of just had to look for internships, volunteer my time. A lot of times I wasn't getting paid when I started off. It was dedicating my summers or my free time after school to go learn from them and work from them. And I didn't care about money at the time. It was just about doing something I loved and learning from these awesome mentors.
Okay.
And so from that, you kind of build not only experience for yourself, but then you build a reputation, because then these people, if they end up needing someone to hire a researcher or hire a keeper, they know you now. Or, they know someone in another state or country that they're looking for. So it's just about networking and just kind of getting out there, volunteering your time to whatever, if it's birds, mammals, if it's a lawyer, an accountant, just kind of working with them. Just finding a mentor, working with them.
All right, let me just take a pin. Samantha Edwards online. Thank you for your question, Samantha. How many iguanas have been released since the Head Start program started? How many iguanas have you guys released so far?
All right, so we have released 468 iguanas back in the wild.
468 over what time period?
In the wild. From the 1990s to
1996.
1996.
Right. So it would be fair then to say that we're not we're nowhere near extinction. How far away from, because it was thought to be extinct. So how far away from that are we? If you know what I'm saying?
Critically endangered.
Even with 400, at what point would we have to hit to be comfortable?
So a species is categorized, its level of threat is categorized from the IUCN Red List,
right?
Which is an international treaty body, and it depends. There's a lot of criteria that have to be examined. So their habitat size, habitat availability, the degree of threats they face, and their numbers in the wild and numbers in captivity, and lots more. So it's not simply just to say, if they reach 1,000, their classification will downgrade to endangered.
It's a lot more factors to consider than that. Okay.
But our aim is to just, grow them as fast as possible, release them as fast as possible with everyone's amazing efforts so far, and just get to a point where, the iguanas, the threat decreases, and one day, they won't need so much human
hands-on
intervention.
Right.
And then with the whole Go Island project coming up, the hope is to now release iguanas back onto the Go Island where they were initially found as well as the Hellshire Hills. And so the population will be more spread out, and that would contribute towards its increase.
All right. Which brings me to another issue. And one of the things I understand that there's partnership with, in many cases, for studying animals, studying illnesses, studying behavior, that kind of thing. So if in case you do encounter one, that's not necessarily in the wild or just somewhere in a place where it interacts with the public, you guys have a better ability to do that. So that's one other point for zoos. So talk to me about how that relationship works. Do you find yourself partnering in that kind of way, looking at animals, how they operate, behavior, illnesses, that kind of thing, so they can better manage them in Jamaica, across the country, if you understand what I mean?
Yeah, we're always, one of the aims at NEPA is to conduct research on our native species. So we're always, whether it's the American crocodile, carrying out assessments like population assessments, the galley-wasp, it could be parrots, doing assessments on those and habitat evaluations. We always look to partnerships. So if a certain entity is in an area like the Urban Development Corporation, we may collaborate with them. if it's a study that the zoo could have a very, very important role, then we would collaborate with them. So we're always looking into collaborations, because working together can be extremely effective. And everyone has, there's a lot of entities stretched across the island that have their areas that they know a lot about the wildlife in. And, that length of knowledge can go a long way when it's shared.
All right, I see some questions popping up on Instagram, so let me take those. Some Marshy Max saying, "Hey Jodi," so somebody who knows you and knows about your reptile disposition. John Rika again is asking, is there any chance of any real risk from the animals to the zoo staff?
Any risk from the animals?
Yeah, is there any risk to the zoo staff from the animals?
I mean, of course, with the bigger kind of, whether it's a
and
crocodile.
How do you mitigate that risk anyway?
Very good training by the staff themselves, by the keepers. Jodi works with 12-foot crocodiles on a daily basis. But she's always has someone. She not only knows those animals, but it's almost about kind of knowing their abilities and respecting those abilities. So it's not. We're not like one of those gator shows you see on TV where we're wrestling and something.
Right. Okay.
We like that. We don't stress around. We keep them, as wild as possible. And then, or if it's a big macaw, macaws have these giant beaks.
They're much more dangerous than they look.
So we have protective gear. We have big leather gloves and stuff just in case. But it's just about kind of working with them and having well-trained staff who knows what they're doing.
Knowing your animals.
Yeah.
Knowing your animals, the individual personality of that animal, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is saying owls are majestic. How can more people get into this type of work? Is the mongoose native to Jamaica? So you can take individual.
There's many different mongoose species, but the one introduced here is actually an Indian mongoose species. I think it was introduced in the
1872.
Yeah, late 1800s.
Yeah, as far as to mitigate, I think it was introduced. The little I know about our animal history,
the impact on the crops, on farmers' crops, so it was to try and reduce the rodent population.
Right.
In turn, it
created a mongoose problem.
Yeah,
right.
And they're terrible. I mean,
they just
they not only do iguanas, and they they're eating bird eggs. Like a lot of even in the wild bird eggs that they're nesting in trees. The mongoose get up there, eat the birds, they eat the babies.
That's just a mongoose being a mongoose. Some would say that's the circle.
In India, that's okay.
That's the circle of life. You know what I mean?
No, but not in here in Jamaica because they're not
native to Jamaica.
Yeah, it's just the same thing. They're invasive species. So we're here to protect the species that are actually from Jamaica, and so the ones that, although mongoose are great little animals where they're from, here they're causing a lot of destruction to Jamaica's native species.
Yeah. All right,
they cause the extinction of. I'm not sure the exact number. I think 5 or 6 of our species.
Mongoose.
And they nearly caused the extinction of the Jamaican iguana. So that's just
same with cats.
Big their impact has been, and it's still very big today.
Let me just take a minute. I feel like cats are overpopulated in Jamaica. Is that like realistic, or am I just
No, they are. There's a lot of them.
Yes.
Okay. And they cause problems.
I just thought it was just me. I thought it was just me.
I mean, all around the world. It's not just Jamaica either. Outdoor feral cats. They're threatening the extinction of numerous species: birds, mammals, reptiles. And there's been studies that come out that show, like in Australia and the U.S., that birds kill over like 3.2 billion different birds in a year. Cats kill that many birds in a year. I mean, and these are animals that belong in the wild, and then you have these domestic cats that are doing this destruction.
All right.
And can I just say one thing?
Sure.
It's out in the Hellshire Hills, we have to constantly monitor the core area. So we actually have 4 NEPA rangers out there, and we have like trapping loops. So we have over 300 traps, and it's just to reduce the number of invasive species out there, like the mongoose, the cats, the dogs, just so that, because they can still bring harm to the iguanas, even at such
and other native wildlife.
And other native wildlife. So it's a very crucial part of the external conservation activities outside of the zoo in the Hellshire Hills.
Somebody's agreeing with you that the mongoose are so annoying.
They are.
I agree.
I don't know if John Wick is asking me a range of questions, but he's asking if he can own a crocodile. I don't know why you want to.
You can come and see. You can come and visit some of the zoo.
That's why they have the zoo.
Yeah.
Mr. Wick. You
They're
can
protected.
Go right.
Get in contact with the zoo and we can arrange something.
All right.
I mean, the zoo itself. I mean, Jamaica, obviously, the Hope Zoo is like kind of like a non-profit. So pretty much anyone coming to the zoo, those ticket sales, that's not going to anyone's like profit or anything. It's going to run the zoo. And if you look at the U.S., like they're all nonprofits as well, and all that money is going back into, you know, whether it's protecting habitat, you know, or different research. Like I did my research project on the Philippine crocodile, helping protect the Caribbean native Philippine crocodile.
Right.
My project was largely supported by Oklahoma City Zoo. They gave me lots of money so I could conduct my research. So I don't think people realize that side of zoos. They're not just, they're taking the money that they make from ticket sales and stuff, and they're putting that back into wildlife conservation.
All right.
So a lot of people may not realize that as well.
All right, let me just check. Last thing, saying Marshy Mac saying Hope Zoo's best keeper is Jodi. So I don't know if you can use that. So let me just stick up in with you, Jodi. Like, I guess that question that keeps cropping up. How does one get involved? You know, what was your path like getting involved, working with animals, that kind of thing? I don't know if you've talked about it before, but you know, what was the path that you followed to get into this? Beyond,
it's actually a very long story, but long story short, long story short, I was actually doing a landscaping course at the zoo. And after that course ended, you know, I wasn't really sure what I'll do afterwards, because to be honest, I was looking at more of becoming a private investigator. But the opportunity was there. I got so attached to the animals, and I went to the curator and told him that I wanted to volunteer at the zoo for like maybe 2 weeks. And if it's the case where he likes how I work, and if I'm good with it, then I wanted a job there. And let's just say 2 weeks of voluntary service turned it out into 2 months. And after the 2 months ended, you know, I was called into a meeting, and they told me that they will accept me on staff. And that's how my journey has started. In 2014, I became Jamaica's youngest zookeeper.
Oh, wow.
And you best believe that in 2014, just starting there, I worked with the largest snake that they have at the zoo, which is a Burmese python. And it was awesome.
Okay. All right. Okay,
Respect.
then. Sure. Yeah. So what's your day like? What's it like? You know, what's a day like for you when you're at the zoo?
A day like for me is, let's just say,
Non-stop.
Okay.
It's basically a mixture of, you know, tiredness, but you're having fun, you're enjoying what you're doing, so you're going after it, you know. It's almost like paradise.
Like seriously,
me.
literally, what do you
What
do
do
each
you
day?
do?
What do you do
My
each day?
routine basically is to, you know, walk and check these animals, you know, first thing in the morning, make sure that everyone is fine, everyone is alive, cage is not tampered with or anything like that. And then here goes going to feed. So now it's feeding time. So you sanitize the plates and you get them fed on time. Because I work with reptile, you know, so there's a particular time that I have to get them fed.
Okay.
I cannot go in and feed an iguana like 1, 2 in the afternoon, because they're cold-blooded animals and their body depends on the sun to help digest their food.
Okay.
So therefore,
Interesting.
early morning feeding, and after I'm done with that, you know, I'll have to check off these animals, make sure everyone is there, everyone is accounted for, and from then I'll go and prep food again for the next day, but put it in the refrigerator. I sometimes do enrichment with these animals also. So you give them a little bit of feel to say, okay, I have to fend for my food today, and they'll have to search for their food and enjoy
training,
it,
right?
you know?
You train them a little bit so they know what to do.
Some animals, like with the snakes, I'll get in contact with, you know. The crocodiles, I'll do a bit of training with them too, you know. And they're incredible animals. They're smart, so they'll take on to it.
And tours and school groups pop up all the time.
Tours and school group pop up at times, and you know, every now and then I might get a call to go and do a tour. And
I'm sorry, Jodi. There's 30 school kids here.
I mean, I have no problem with it, because as long as you're going home, you know, and you gain new knowledge as it relates to animals and them being at the zoo, I'm happy.
Yeah. To me, that was one of the best. I mean, obviously, we're there to work with the animals, but like, even today, but especially when I was a zookeeper, one of the most kind of rewarding things, no matter how like stressful day you're having or something, when a school group comes in, you get to like take a snake, whatever, to these kids, and like it's awesome. It's like this is
just take a snake to these kids.
awesome.
Well, they
Makes
love
them
it.
so
Yeah, I mean, we
happy.
have
It's like-
bunny rabbits, we do all that,
Okay.
but then we also have the iguanas and snakes and too.
But
so
I mean, I'm sure that was one of the things you get to foster an appreciation of
Yeah.
animal, or change the perception
so rewarding.
about
It's-
some
it's a
animals
nice
that
feeling.
think they are dangerous,
I mean,
stuff like
it's a
that.
nice
Sometimes, persons will come to the zoo and they're like, what do you do here? And I explain to them, they're like, okay, well, that sounds pretty easy. And then when I break it down to them, I'm like, well, let's just
I
say,
would never,
300.
never in a million years come and just assume that what you do is
let's
no,
say, hold on,
first
but
of all.
I'll be like, let's just say 312 Jamaican iguanas. And then they're like, okay, and what else? And I'm like, over 20 snakes, over 80 turtles.
Mhm.
And they're like, okay, no more, that's too much. And that has to be a lot of hard work. And I'm like, okay, I made my point.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
So Treya, from NEPA's point of view and working with animals, and where do you, how do you evaluate or assess the appreciation or the knowledge or the appreciation of our wildlife, our ecosystem, and trying to create that harmony, that balance between what we know as, I guess, the attraction or of what a zoo is, same fostering the appreciation that these are animals that we need to care for and appreciate and incorporate as part of the whole of Jamaica. You know what I mean? So they're not just there to look at them, oh, that's a nice, cute looking animal. This is part of an ecosystem that we have to appreciate and understand that they actually contribute to our overall, the country's overall.
So like getting the message
Right.
across. Well, we at NEPA we do a lot of public education activities, like outreach activities, and a lot of them may be focused on Jamaica's wildlife. So at the zoo before, we've actually collaborated with the zoo, and I think in the past there was an event called My Croc Adventure, and it was all about crocodiles, raising funds, raising awareness and appreciation, and we do events like that. So we've done another event called Crocwise. We do World Wildlife Day, which is coming up on March the 3rd.
Right.
And World Wetlands Day and activities like that. And we also go into schools and we give talks. And like if there's a school that, live close to crocodiles, or there's a high rate of human crocodile interaction in that area, we do target those kind of communities and schools just to kind of educate people on the animal itself and, get rid of any misconceptions.
Right.
And educate people on how to, what we call, be crocwise, and, how to appreciate wildlife and why we should appreciate wildlife. And that was an example. Oh, and also one of my favorite activities to do in terms of outreach is when we actually respond to wildlife incidents. So like when we go out and there's a displaced crocodile and, in a big community, and it attracts a crowd and a lot of questions, and we have some really good experiences because we'll be there like retrieving the crocodile, restraining it, and telling people what we're going to do, how we measure it, how we tag it, and give them just basic information on the crocodile, and they're just so blown away by it because they just never knew this about our crocodile before because it's so misunderstood. And then we give them a chance to like pet, if they want to feel the skin and maybe take a selfie, within safe measures.
Of course.
And you go and you have little kids there and everything, and you go away at the end of the day knowing that you changed, you educated these people on our native wildlife, and now there's going to be a stronger appreciation coming from them. And you would hope that this would spread to, the wider society. So
what would you say are some of the bigger misconceptions about animals and some of the our more native animals, I guess, with a more negative perception, like your crocodiles, maybe some of your birds, some of your turtles, that kind of thing. What are some of the bigger misconceptions persons have about the animals and how they should be treated?
I think the main one is that people believe they're harmful. Like, they're very, very dangerous. And the fact is that most of our species, if not all, are gonna flee at the sight of humans rather than approach or even try to attack you. And so at the end of the day, they're actually harmless, even down to a crocodile, which is potentially a dangerous animal. But our American crocodile we have here in Jamaica, the only crocodile species we have here, its natural behavior is to move away from humans. It doesn't like us.
It doesn't like interaction and that kind of thing. Right?
Yeah. And so that, those are the common misconceptions. And then also there's a lot of like folklore So like the story that, you know, if a gallios bites you and it reaches water before you, you're gonna die,
Wow,
which
okay.
is a complete
Never heard
myth
that.
and
First time
is
I've
not
heard that
true.
one.
Yeah, I haven't heard that.
Yeah,
First I've heard that
a
one.
lot of
Never
people
heard that one
believe
before.
that.
Okay.
And we have people in our field who have like proved that to people. So they've gotten a gallios because they've gone to like do an assessment. They've been like, okay, watch this. It's gonna bite me. I'm gonna dip it in water, and I'm alive. And they're just like, wow.
Like blown away.
And you know, and then you know, a lot of people think our snakes are venomous. So their first,
right, exactly,
their
yeah.
first reaction is to kill it.
Exactly.
Instead of just back away, call the National Environment and Planning Agency, report it, and then we will advise you on what to do.
I was thinking, how do people get in touch with you? Do you have the number offhand that people can call if they need to, if they
Yes.
encounter an animal that they need to come and have handled, that kind of thing?
So our main line is 876-754-7540. And then there's a toll-free number, which I can't remember off the top of my head. And then you can also reach us on social media accounts.
All right.
And then if it is an incident, like say with a crocodile or something else along, you know, you think is potentially dangerous, you can contact the nearest police station as well.
And they'll reach out to you.
And they'll
then
reach
do
out
that
to
sort of
us
thing.
if anything, yeah.
All right, so this is the part of the interview I wasn't necessarily looking forward to, but the people, we have the animal here, so
Yes.
bring it out and let the people see.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be over here.
Yeah. And while she's taking that out, I saw on the
Sure.
Facebook, Candace Christian said, does the Hope Zoo take animals from the zoo into schools to educate children? And yes, we do. Like, aside from school kids coming to the zoo, we do have like our traveling petting zoo.
Okay.
And we'll go out and work with, go to schools personally with our kind of animals
Alright.
to educate.
Is there a number that people can reach you guys if they wanted to come and have you come to their school and, you know, talk to them and talk to the
I'll
kids?
post
show them
it
that
here
kind
on
of
the
thing?
Facebook and Instagram
Okay, great,
page.
sure.
Yeah.
So you can check out in the comments below. You'll be able to see what the different. Okay.
What do we have here,
all right.
Jodi?
Yeah,
It's a little iguana.
I was not prepared for that.
We
All right,
have,
let's zoom in and.
2019 Ashley and iguana.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so get close in on him, Andre.
So
I'm
kind
gonna,
of,
like I said, I'm gonna be over here. Where
So what do you mean by 2019 iguana?
He was hatched in 2019
Where?
from Elsher Hills.
This is actually a baby iguana that was hatched in the wild and came back with a group to the zoo where they're now being raised at the zoo. And this guy was picked out specifically because he's going to kind of be our ambassador Jamaican iguana.
are you zooming in, Andre? People say-
I think I am.
Okay, that says. All right. So, yeah, nice to meet you. You're gonna stay over there.
You can hold him.
No, that's fine. I'm good. I'm good. Well, I'm good where I am.
We touched-
Nice to meet you.
Oh, you touched the tail. Like a
I'm
one
not.
finger.
Joey.
Just go like
Come
Just
on.
one.
No, thank you. I'm
Just
good.
do
If
it.
I touch the tail, yeah,
peer pressure.
Yeah, nope.
There's
It's
no
not
one
gonna
watching.
happen.
Don't worry.
I don't think.
Okay. All right. It's all good. No
You're
pressure.
supposed to
Okay.
do.
Yeah. Here you go.
You touch the tail.
Here.
No,
Yeah, you're fine. I'm just holding it up for you.
Joey, we had an agreement. You're gonna keep it over there.
Okay,
All right.
he's there. I'm just holding that.
All right. There we go.
Hey. Progress. Baby steps.
Baby
Yeah.
steps.
Baby
Baby
steps.
steps.
So yeah, this is your own.
Cameraman
good?
said.
You want to hold it now?
Yeah. How about the guy? Okay. All right. So if you want to see more of this kind of thing, if you want them to come to you, or if you want to go and check them out at the zoo, you can do that. So I mean, when is the zoo open from? You know, what times do you
10
operate?
a.m. To 5 p.m. every day of the week.
Every day of the week. So you can
yeah.
check out the website. I think Candice, she posted
We
the
have the
information.
website. Our social media is constantly going. We have our phone number there. You can reach us on social media. We do birthday parties. School groups. We'll come to your school. April 22nd. This is gonna be cool. We're doing a big Earth Day fair.
Okay.
And we're going to have organizations from all over Jamaica. We're going to have education booths. We're going to be, people can plant trees and have like a plant a tree program.
Fantastic. Wonderful.
And all sorts of fun activities like all day long. And then ticket sales are only $500 for everyone on April 22nd for Earth Day.
So that would be one of the best days to come check out the zoo and
Yeah.
check out all they have to have. I've been there.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's an experience you definitely won't regret.
Yes.
The array of animals that they have is
Yes.
just really outstanding. I mean,
Yeah.
things that you probably only never seen on Animal Planet, things you've only never seen on, all different Nat Geo or, things like that. So you get to see them up close and personal and get to really understand what they are, how they operate, and that kind of thing.
I put them up to the camera on the phone.
Okay.
Dude.
It's our very own iguana.
What's up, Stud? See? Nice.
Did you
So
make
let's
them
ask
just
you some
like
I don't
questions.
know why Joe is
Hey.
trying to. Yeah.
There you go.
All
Cool.
right. So, somebody saying it's kinda cute. Something is wrong with you as a
Yay.
person.
No.
All right.
No.
Hey, you know what? To each their own. Everybody loves their own
Right.
animals. I'm not really. I'm more of a plant
It
person.
is very cute.
You know,
You know, it's something to be. I mean, like I know we're like kind of weird animal people, but like you know, you
No,
have
I
your.
mean, I get it. I'm not afraid of the animal. I
There's
mean, I
something to be
understand.
proud
I
of,
understand.
too. Like you know, you have your rugby team, your Jamaican sports you're proud of. This
Absolutely.
is your own iguana species. That's,
Right.
You know, there's 45 iguana species around the world.
Mhm.
This is the one, and it's one of the most endangered. But this is the only one found in Jamaica, so it's kind of cool thing to be proud of.
Absolutely. And I know that we have several endemic birds. I know I try to look out for some of those as well, so I can, tell my daughter so she can have a better appreciation of nature and so on, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So I try to do that. Maybe not so much with the reptiles, but I
Hey.
do try to do that as well. And let me just give last word to both you, Treya, and to you. Just last words from everybody so we can, what was the last, apart from Wildlife Day, which is great. So last message you want persons to appreciate about zoos and about our Jamaica's ecosystem and our animals and how persons can try to have a harmonious relationship with them. All right, last word to you.
I'm just encouraging everyone to take pride in our wildlife that we have here in Jamaica. It's a part of our culture. It's an important part of our island, and it makes Jamaica very, very unique. So instead of, harming wildlife, think about how you can help it and appreciate it. And if you're interested in finding out more about it, you can call the National Environment and Planning Agency for further information on anything to do with Jamaica's wildlife. We're happy to help.
Fantastic. Jodi, what do you have to say holding the reptile who's looking at me and making me feel uncomfortable? But anyway, all right, what do you, last word to you.
For me, it's just for them to get to know, endangered species, endemic species of their country, and get to, study the history of them. And then whenever they do that, they'll have a total understanding of what the animal is about, and hopefully they will no longer misunderstand them.
Be afraid like me. That's fine. Okay. And Joyce, so last word to you. I mean, persons who might be interested might have hopefully they would have changed their perception about the zoos and the role that they offer to the world as a whole, but Jamaica in particular. So for you, what would you like persons to know about the zoo and the work that you do there and the contribution you make?
There's a lot more than just that we do that's just putting these animals on display. I mean, obviously there's the education and kind of building that connection with, the people that visit. But we obviously have the Jamaican Iguana Head Start program.
Right.
And then we do all our wildlife rescue work as well, And so a lot goes into protecting animals in the wild, not just in captivity.
Right.
And so that's the big role I don't think people understand. So I would beg anyone that doubts zoos or anything to come spend some time, bring their kids to the zoo, have a good time and see kind of your reaction leaving that place now.
All right, fantastic. All right, thank you very much, all you guys, for coming and bringing it. And I don't know if does it have a name yet, or is it just Iguana Dude?
So right now, we're gonna do something fun. So right now we kind of call him JoJo, but we want to do a fun thing where we're going to reach out to several of the local schools here in Kingston.
Okay.
And we're going to ask each of the schools to kind of come up with their own name.
Okay.
And then we're going to put those listed names on social media.
All right.
And kind of have an online vote of kind of coming up with, because all of our Head Start iguanas, they're in our facility. We keep hands off because we want them to be wild, and they go back in the wild. But he's going to be our education guy. He's going to be promoting. And so we're going to be taking him to schools. So we want him to have a really special kind of Jamaican name.
Candace Christian says call him Iggy.
Iggy? All right. Okay.
Iggy,
We're gonna have it. We'll post it on probably the Hope Zoo social media page, and then we'll have people vote on it. And so we'll kind of find a neat name just for this guy.
All right. Great. Fantastic. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all for
you.
coming.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
that.
having us.
Hopefully you all learned something new about zoos. If you had a negative association with them, hopefully that's changed now. As you can see, they do a whole lot of good, and it's more than just putting animals on display, as Joey said. They go out there and they do the work. They've been trying to resuscitate or bring back our iguanas to what would be what's like the best case scenario or the best definition or the association of when our animals are like non-threatened or something like that? What's the association that goes with that?
least concern.
Least concerned, yes.
concern.
You know, like,
And healthy.
just sorry to end on like one more note. Like, we've kind of talked about just our local impact as a zoo,
Right.
but if you look at zoos like in the U.S. and in Europe, like there's been numerous species that have been saved from extinction just from these zoos contributing to them. There's been over, I think, several $100 million every year that go into wildlife research, that go into protecting habitat. Like, deforestation is one of the biggest kind of threats to the, and zoos are putting money into preserving those habitats as well. And I think most people don't realize that that's the role they're playing. They, you know, they just kind of see like, oh, people go there to see animals. Like, no, they're taking all that money and they're putting it into protecting animals in the wild.
Fantastic, absolutely. 876 Super says, yeah, I like the name Iggy. So
Iggy? All right, we'll put it up there. We're going to have a cool online voting contest, definitely.
Foxy Lady Palm says, we have lots of iguanas here. I don't know where you're telling me.
Where you in Florida?
Are you from Florida or where are you? Let me know where
It's
you are
very
so we
Florida.
can follow you up. And Millie Wren says, we love Joey and Hope Zoo. So apparently
Thank
you
you.
have fans over there.
Thank you.
All right, so I think on that note, it's time for us to wrap.
Yeah.
Thanks to everyone who tuned into our discussion, and especially those of you who sent in your questions and your comments. We really do appreciate it. And if you have a question and you'd like to send it in, not to worry, we'll be going through afterwards. So you can send it in and we'll still be able to go through, get in touch with either Joey or Treya or Jodi-Ann so that it can give you the right information, right? And if you remember, our audience plays a major part in our show. So if there's anyone you'd like us to have in studio, let us know. And we'll try to have that person in studio as soon as possible.
Focus. Focus. Just read your notes.
Okay, wow. All right, why? Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Jamaica Information Service to see who will be in studio next, which will not be that guy. We do this every Thursday live on Facebook. I've been your host, Vaughn Davis. This has been Studio 58 Live. Thank you very much for joining us. Please have a wonderful day.